Simulation Happy Hour acknowledges the land and the waters from which you are listening today. Welcome to Simulation Happy Hour. Sit back, relax, and let's talk about all things sim. All right, welcome to another episode. It's just me today, and I'm joined by the fabulous Katie Walker. How are you, Katie?
I'm well, thanks, Mel.
So I'm just going to do a little bio on you. Katie is an internationally recognized leader in healthcare simulation with more than 2 decades of experience in simulation-based education, workforce development, and patient safety. Originally from Australia, Katie led the development of Health Workforce Australia's national simulation program, which everyone in Australia benefited from. One of the largest healthcare simulation initiatives globally, supporting simulation integration across health professions, education, and workforce training. She's held senior leadership roles in Australia and internationally, including the Director of Simulation at New York City Health and Hospitals. Katie has been an active contributor to the Society of Simulation in Healthcare, serving in a range of leadership positions and supporting the advancement of simulation practice worldwide. Her interests include translational simulation, healthcare team performance, patient safety, organizational improvement, and the strategic use of simulation to enhance health professional education and healthcare outcomes. So, Katie, it's fabulous to have you back in Australia. You're doing lots of research work in simulation. You're about to defend your PhD.
Yes, I am.
And yeah, a dear friend. So welcome.
Thank you, Mel. Thank you, Mel. Sounded like a lot, but I'm very grateful. Thank you.
So today we're going to talk about your paper, which you co-wrote with a number of fabulous people, on the value-based simulation in healthcare, a new model for metrics reporting in advances in simulation.
Okay, great.
Fabulous. So we're not going to go through the details of the paper because Simulcast have done a fabulous job on that, which you were on. Today we really want to just have a conversation with you about the framework and some really tangible, I guess, ways we can apply it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into it.
All right. So, Katie, I know the model is really close to your heart. Do you want to tell me a bit about it?
Oh, sure. Okay, so it's definitely been a bit of a baby for me, Mel. It's grown out of years of me, our simulation teams, hospital leaders, and colleagues who became our author group, trying to figure out the best way of demonstrating the value that simulation brings to healthcare. So, as we know these days, we all drown in data. And so we think the answer is knowing which data makes the most sense for each organisation and for each simulation service. And our catchphrase is value is local. So the VBSH is our attempt to give simulation services a better vocabulary for that conversation. So instead of climbing a pyramid toward ROI like other models, we've created this taxonomy with 6 value categories. So things like, how well a program is running, what people learned, what changed when people returned to their workplace, so that a sim service and their organizational leaders can pick what's actually relevant to their situation rather than chasing the highest metric.
I love that because we've all been there trying to chase that metric and not ever succeeded. So where did it actually come from? Like, was there a moment where you just went, aha, like this is it?
Yep. No, there definitely was. So it just came from us literally trying to force simulation into existing value models and just not being able to make it fit. So we kept circling back to this idea that there really isn't a hierarchy of importance. Every level matters depending on who's asking the question. And then in 2023, Lara Varpio, of whom I'm a fan, and Jonathan Shubino published a paper arguing that patient outcomes had basically become an unquestionable idol in health professions education research, and that treating it as beyond critique was actually a threat to the field. So that really piqued my interest so much. And it gave us academic permission to formalize what we'd already been arguing. There's no doubt that patient outcomes are a goal. I mean, that's obviously why we're here. But there are many other value propositions that are equally as important and lead to, better patient outcomes. Things such as improving team skills and culture and unit efficiencies. So we just thought there's got to be a way that we can present this and, in some ways focus more on this. Yeah.
I love that. So there are 6 categories. Can you walk me through them so we can understand? And there's a great diagram in the paper of them.
Yes. So it's table 8. So in the paper, there's table 8, which actually has, all the different categories and the elements of each category. But we actually think of it more of a pie chart than actually a ladder. So the service products dimension is the what, who, and how. What type of courses are run, how many hours are logged. It's about participant data, resource data, and activity data. So the operational inputs and the operational outputs of all the activities of the simulation program. And then we move on to program perceptions, which is how people feel about it. And it's not just the learners, it's actually staff, the funders, and the executives. So anyone who actually touches the simulation program, they are really interested in what the perception is. I think in the past we've kind of done the happy sheets, what do the learners think about the program, but in all reality, the people funding it and the unit leaders, they want to know that it works as well. So it's the perception of both participants and leadership. And then in acquired expertise, we only count in this one verified skill gain, not someone's self-rating. So I think often we ask about learners' increased competence and confidence, and that's good and that's important to know, but that actually fits into program perceptions. So in acquired expertise, it's actually more what universities do actually by having, assessment rather than summative kind of performance, so it's actually assessing the expertise to ensure that it's improved. And then in workplace performance, it looks at actually what changes on the floor after you've done the training. So it's simulation's impact upon the workplace, and it's also the workplace insights that we gain from simulation. So there's many insights about the processes and what's happening within units that we actually learn from running simulations. So it's also that. And system benefit is more the big picture impact. So things like patient safety, equity, staff retention. And so this is both the tangible and the intangible benefits to healthcare by using simulation. And finally, there is the value analyses, which is the category that's really about the cost and about the money. And the question is, was it worth it? So for all that we invested, are we getting the outcomes that we want in a fiscal kind of way, which is important, but it's not the only thing. Yeah. So that's, but it definitely is important. And I think the thing with that, I think we've gone into the depths of how you actually calculate it, but I think as a simulation leader, really it's working with the finance department wherever you are. They are the absolute experts in finance. So use their expertise. And honestly, If you become friends with them and they believe in what you're doing, it's way more important than trying to struggle yourself to work out, what the fiscal gain or loss is. So, yeah, that's just a little point there.
Yeah, really great point. Yeah, and I love this model. As you said, it's not a pyramid, it's circular.
Yeah.
And in saying that, what you do kind of isn't every categorically is equally valid. Is that just a nice way of saying services get to pick whichever number looks the best?
So that's a really good point, Mel. So the model is designed so that organizational leaders and simulation leaders come together to work out what value means to them. So I think I said before that value is local, and it's about that conversation and about both the organization and the simulation people coming together and thinking, okay, how are we adding value here? And the idea is to have these conversations early between funders and leaders, with the model being presented with the 6 different categories and working together to decide the data that matters to each unique organisation. So it's not the service hiding behind numbers that may look great. It's a shared conversation about the relevance of the service to the stakeholders. And we're trying to make a shift from metric power to metric relevance. So it's all about what is most relevant to each organisation. And if anything, I think it actually brings the data to life, because you can't just default to we ran 40 sessions, for instance. If your funder actually wants to know whether staff feel safer speaking up, that's what's important to them. And I know that's your point of expertise, Mel, speaking up. And if your organisation wants to know that's the metric that they're measuring the success of your program on, they don't care how many people, or they might care a bit how many people are trained, but mostly, they're looking at that dimension of, did this actually, cause a change in what people are doing? So, yeah.
I actually really love that. When you were just talking then, I don't know that I knew it, but it didn't really hit me how this model is really contextualized to each organization and what is most relevant, which is fabulous, because then you don't have to try and struggle to get up those levels in the pyramid. It's really choosing what it is you want to focus on and measuring that.
Yes.
Which is just so much more pleasant.
Yes, that's for sure. Yes. And honestly, you might be, wasting money and resources trying to achieve something that, the people around you are just kind of not interested in, right?
Yes.
Because you don't know unless you have the conversations and you ask them. So this is like, this is a vehicle to open those conversations and, give you the kind of expertise to talk about it,
Yeah, and it's a really good reason to set up that meeting with someone that you wouldn't normally converse with. Very good. So in the paper, you give us a case study, which I think is fictional. Can you talk about how you've applied this in a real situation?
Yeah. So one time, I guess, when it really hit home to me was when I was in New York City. So the simulation program was in the New York City Health and Hospital System, and we were funded by New York City to run a large-scale simulation program aimed at decreasing maternal mortality among women of colour. So New York City Council, who was the funder, wanted to improve this statistic where women of colour were 8 times more likely to die from maternal mortality than white women. The metric that they were concerned with and regularly wanted reports on was training numbers, because they were concerned with because the value to them was that every single person on every professional team that cared for these women had been trained. And that's not a lesser metric just because it sits low on Philip's pyramid. it was literally the thing that mattered most to them as the funder. So if we had put extra effort into measure fiscal return on investment, for example, it would have used precious resources that we were able to use more effectively to measure the data that they actually wanted. So what they actually wanted was the first service products. Service products was the element that was absolutely most important to them, and they just wanted to know that we had trained at least in every obstetric unit 85% of staff. And that was literally all they were interested in. And we were able, obviously to say that it did improve things, which was fantastic. But but it's just that we didn't have to put extra resources into understanding that happened by way of training this many people. And so it was very interesting, I think,
Yeah.
Yeah, that you can actually waste, brain power and resources just trying to, produce data on something that people aren't really interested in. So, yeah.
Yeah. How often does that happen? A
Yeah,
lot, I
right.
would say.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah,
That's a really great example. So I know this was really written with hospital-based simulation
yeah.
in mind because all the authors are hospital-based simulationists. A lot of us work now in higher education. Can this model be applied in that context?
Yeah, that is a really great question, Mel. And as we were working through it, we were in the back of our minds, and actually, two of our authors did have crossover with
Okay.
higher ed as well. So that was really useful. But honestly, I think it translates better than we actually might expect. So the 6 categories are built around, as we've said before, who's asking the question, and what they value, not specifically around hospital funding structures. And now, where we get a bit of a shift is workplace performance, and probably that's something that we might think more about, because obviously in a hospital system, it's about bedside behaviour change, and in higher education, the equivalent is really performance on clinical placement, right? So when the students go out, and the point where higher ed learning meets real practice. And system benefit shifts as well. So instead of hospital system level outcomes, you're looking to higher ed outcomes, which you would definitely know more about those than me, but they may be things like, I don't know, accreditation standards or professional body requirements, or maybe program reputation, probably a few different things. But definitely service products, program perceptions, acquired expertise, and value analyses map directly across from this model. And as you know, a university sim lab has the same inputs and outputs. It has the same monitoring of perceptions of courses. It verifies real skill gain, I would argue, much more than probably hospital systems do, rather than self-reports. And it also has to justify its budget to the faculty, which I'm sure you're very aware of. Yeah, and I think I mentioned in our own author group, we did have some colleagues that spanned clinical and academic positions. So even though it's been developed predominantly for hospital systems, it definitely would map to educational institutions as well. Yeah. But that's a great question. Yeah, it's good
Yeah,
thinking about it.
Yeah, that is good. Yeah, it does map quite well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, no, it does. Yeah. And then, if you wanted to take it further, Mel, if you wanted to build on it, you could, do an adaptation for higher ed.
That is true. Let's chat. So thank you, Katie. For those that want to read the paper, we'll put a link in the notes of the show. For anyone who wants to reach out and find more information, have a chat about maybe learning more about it and how to apply it in their setting, maybe reach out to the show and then we can get you in contact with Kate.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. And we are giving a workshop.
Oh, good
Yeah.
plug. Yes, there is a National Simulation Conference on the Gold Coast
Yeah.
in Australia in October,
Yeah.
the 21st, 22nd.
Yeah.
And yes, registrations are open now, and Katie and the team will be running a workshop on this evaluation on the Wednesday pre-conference workshop. So if you're super keen, come on down. It'll be a great event.
Yeah, be great.
Very good.
Yep.
So,
Very good.
Kay, before we let you go, there is one question we ask everybody.
Okay.
Because we like to live vicariously.
I love that.
I know it's in the morning and we're sipping on coffee, but if you could be anywhere in the world for a happy hour, where would you be? What would you be sipping?
Well. So, as it turns out, I am going overseas to the beautiful Netherlands to defend my PhD in a few weeks' time. And after that, when I can finally relax, hopefully, fingers crossed,
I'm sure.
I am then going to the Greek islands, which I'm very excited about. Yes. And just to 3 little islands, which look
just three of the Greek islands.
Yeah. Not the big ones. We're just doing the little ones, but they look gorgeous. And I did read that they have some small batch wines there in a couple of the islands. So I'm thinking, looking at the Aegean Sea while I'm sipping on my probably my dream.
How wonderful. All right, we'll send us a photo.
I will.
Excellent. Well, thank you for taking the time to have a chat with us.
That was,
I think it's a fabulous model, and I know we hear rumblings around the world at different conferences that people are starting to apply it and use it, and so I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of it out there.
Very exciting. Great. Yep.
All right, thanks, Katie. Thanks everyone for listening.
Okay, thanks, Mel.